in the book of Isaiah. As we've mentioned many, many times, Isaiah ministered in the last years of the northern kingdom known as Israel, but he ministered in the southern kingdom, Judah. And as we've pointed out many times from Isaiah 1 and verse 1, we see that his ministry covered the reign of 4 kings in the southern kingdom of Judah. From Isaiah 6, it was in the year that King Uzziah died that Isaiah received his call to the ministry. Now Uzziah had reigned for 52 years. And during his reign, Judah had almost risen to the temporal power, prestige, and glory that Israel had in the days of David and Solomon. So Uzziah's reign was one that was marked by prosperity, great military success. So when the news came, the king is dead, the confidence and the hopes that had been so prevalent during his reign was replaced with great uncertainty and anxiety and fear. The sense of stability had basically died with the king. So it's a very traumatic time for the kingdom of Judah. And the outlook was very, very bleak. It was during this time that marked the beginning of Isaiah's ministry. Now, following the reign of Uzziah, we see that Jotham was the next king. And he reigned for 16 years. And from 2 Kings chapter 16, verses 33 and 34, he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. In other words, he was a good king. But then we come to the reign of Ahaz. And he also reigned for 16 years. And from 2 Chronicles 17, verse 2, he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord. And as you read 2 Kings 17, it was a time of rapid spiritual degradation and darkness. It was a time when the land was overrun with idolatry and evil, and corruption and injustice had basically enveloped the land. And there was a small remnant, and they were serious about the Lord, but they were suffering affliction, and they were just getting smaller and smaller. The spiritual and the political landscape was evil, and again, extremely bleak. Assyria, one of the enemies at this time, had reached the height of its power, and it was expanding rapidly, and it would shortly conquer the northern kingdom of Israel, and there was a threat to the southern kingdom as well. So Judah was in a very advanced stage of sin. And they were following and they were engrossed in the very same paths that led to the downfall of the northern kingdom. So again, it's a very critical time in Judah's history. Sin was throughout the land, and on top of that there was the threat of an enemy nation, Assyria, that was just expanding its territory. And then on top of that, you had the looming judgment of God that Isaiah was warning about. So Isaiah continually, during this time, reminded the nation of their sin and continually directed their attention to the solution, which was the Lord. That'll bring us to our text, Isaiah 32, very familiar verses 1 and 2. Isaiah says, "Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. And a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land." Now I believe that this portion of the message that Isaiah preached was during the time of Ahaz's reign, a time of wickedness. And he begins with an intention getting word. Behold. It's a word that he used 104 times in the book of Isaiah. Behold. Again, it's a word to get their attention. He then says, a king shall reign in righteousness. Again, this is during Ahaz's reign. A king shall reign in righteousness. In verse 2, he speaks of a man, which is the same as the king. The immediate reference, I believe, is to Judah's next king, following Ahaz, which would be Hezekiah. And Hezekiah would become a blessing to Judah, and he, in a sense, would be a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, and as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land. In other words, their next king, would be someone that would be a difference maker. Someone who had their best interests in heart. So, our text, for those living under the terrible reign of Ahaz, this was a promise. Better days are coming under the reign of Hezekiah. From 2 Kings chapter 18, verses 3 through 7, we see that it was under Hezekiah that a spiritual reformation took place in Judah. Now, a characteristic of the book of Isaiah and the ministry of Isaiah is that Isaiah was always looking beyond the present to Christ. In fact, Isaiah says more concerning the coming of the Messiah Christ and His redemptive work than any other Old Testament writer. And I believe our text looks beyond Hezekiah to Christ. Looking at the text with reference to Christ, notice those words: a king, a man, and then the last part of the verse, in a weary land. A king, a man, in a weary land. We want to speak on a God-provided one in a weary land. Isaiah uses the metaphors to describe the conditions of the time. He uses wind, tempest, dry place, weary land. And he uses metaphors in describing this promised one and hiding place, a covert, rivers of water, the shadow. Again, it is a prophecy of Jesus Christ. He's the only one that gives full value to those words on hiding place, a covert, rivers of water, a shadow. Hezekiah is the imperfect fulfillment. Jesus Christ is the perfect fulfillment. So let's consider the conditions of Isaiah's day. Throughout the book of Isaiah, Isaiah paints word pictures to describe the conditions of the time. In chapter 1, he uses the words stricken, sick, faint, no soundness, wounds, bruises, putrefying sores, desolate, devour, overthrown. That's in the first chapter. In chapter 35, in verse 1, there are the words, the wilderness, the solitary place, the desert. In chapter 35, verses 3 through 6, there are the words weak, feeble, fearful, blind, deaf, lame, wilderness, and desert. In chapter 35 and verse 7, there are the words parched ground, thirsty land, the habitation of dragons, speaking of harm and destruction. And here in the text, we see wind that would hinder, wind that would interfere, wind that would disrupt and make difficult and wreak havoc. And then there is the tempest, that which is turbulent. There is the dry place, that which is wilted and empty. And there is the weary land, that which is exhausting and draining. The people of Judah had suffered and were suffering under the reign of Ahaz. And they fully understood Isaiah's use of these words throughout the book. They understood that. This is the times in which we live. That's how they understood it. But in the midst of all this, Isaiah, throughout the book and in the text, directs their attention, calls their attention to God's provision, to God's remedy. And this is what marks the message of Isaiah. So let's look now at this promise. Behold, a king shall reign. Behold, a king, and a man shall be as a hiding place, and a covert as rivers of water, as the shadow of a great rock. And again, the immediate reference, the initial application would be Hezekiah. And he would be the imperfect fulfillment. But ultimately, these words have a much wider scope than Hezekiah. Again, they are a prophecy concerning Jesus Christ, the perfect fulfillment. So Isaiah is speaking of one far greater than Hezekiah. In the text, Isaiah presents an analogy, an image of this coming one. But we need to know this, that no analogy, that no image is sufficient to describe Jesus Christ. They all fall short. Isaiah was a master at using analogies and images, but they all fall short of who Christ is. In other words, Christ far exceeds what is written, what is declared. So the first thing he points their attention to is a king, and then he moves on to a man. And he says in verse 2, "And a man shall be." A man shall be. These words would be included under the word behold. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness. Also under that, a man shall be. So he's concentrating on what he shall be, what he is, and what he will be. Again, they're all part of what they are called upon to behold. Behold a man. This is no ordinary man. It's the one that he speaks of throughout his ministry. The one he speaks of throughout the book of Isaiah. It's the one he's portraying throughout the book. It's the one that he's pointing to throughout the book. Chapter 4, verse 2, this man, this king, he's the branch of the Lord, beautiful and glorious. In chapter 7, verse 14, he is Emmanuel. That he's God with us. This is no ordinary king. This is no ordinary man. Chapter 8, verse 14. He is a sanctuary. Chapter 9, verse 6. Speaking of this man, we read, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given." Unto us. Those who have sinned, those who are unrighteous, those who are guilty, those who are ungodly, those who are alienated and are far off from God, unto us is given. That's grace. And then notice, concerning this one, the government shall be on his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Again, this is no ordinary man that Isaiah is directing their attention to. In Isaiah 12, verse 2, he refers to him as our strength, our song, and our salvation. In Isaiah 22, verse 23, he's a nail in a sure place, speaking of his firmness. In Isaiah 28:16, he's a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. In Isaiah 40, verse 5, he's the glory of the Lord. In Isaiah 40, verse 11, he's a shepherd. In Isaiah 42 and verse 1, he's God's elect servant. In Isaiah 42:6, he is a covenant of the people and a light. In Isaiah 42, verse 7, he's the liberator. In Isaiah 53, he's the arm of the Lord. He's a root out of a dry ground. He's a despised and rejected one for us. And he is our substitute. He is our sin and burden bearer. He is the offering for our sin. And he is the victorious one. You see, the one that Isaiah calls our attention to, throughout his ministry, throughout the book, is not just a mere man, but he's the God-man. He is a man from God. He is a man who is God. And throughout the book, Isaiah declares God. And he declares God to be accessible. He declares God to be the Creator. He declares God to be eternal. He declares God to be faithful and glorious, and that He is the Holy One and the Just One. He presents God as long-suffering, as loving, as merciful, as powerful, as righteous. He presents Him as sovereign. He presents Him as true and unequaled and unsearchable, and one who would leave the majesties and the adorations and the praises and the glory of heaven on our behalf and undertake for us. And ultimately, this one that Isaiah speaks of is the one we read of in Romans chapter 5, verse 15. The gift of grace, which is by one man, Jesus Christ. That's who Isaiah is talking about. And in 1 Timothy 2:5, for there is one God and one mediator between God and man, the man, Christ Jesus. So this man is none other than Jesus Christ. And He is a reigning king. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness. This one that God would send is a righteous king. The word righteousness is a dominating characteristic of His person and of His reign. The one who would come, this one to whom Isaiah directs their attention, He would be a sovereign ruler. He is authority. A king speaks of authority. This one is authority. He's not merely a king. He is 1 Timothy 6, verse 15. The blessed and only potentate, the King of kings and the Lord of lords. He is the king that reigns. There's never a time when He does not reign. He is Almighty God, King. As such, He possesses all power in heaven and in earth. And therefore He's able. This man, this king, He's able. While He was on earth, the winds, the waves were obedient to His word. Sickness and disease fled at His command. Demons were subject to His word. Even the dead came from the grave in response to His word. There are no difficulties with Him. None whatsoever. He had the power of creation. He had the power of sustaining. He had the power of fashioning and destroying. He had the power of opening and shutting. He had the power of overthrowing. He had the power of establishing. He had the power to kill. And He had the power to make alive. He had the power to give and the power to withhold. All power is in His hands. In times of wind in times of tempest, and in the dry place, and in the weary land. He is the King that reigns. This is what Isaiah is directing their attention to. He is not directing their attention to the wind, nor the tempest, nor the dry land, nor the weary land. He's directing their attention to this man, this King, who will be in these things. So what Isaiah is declaring is the sufficiency of this one. Here were the people of Judah. They're in dire straits. In describing their situation, Isaiah uses the words winds, tempests, dry place, weary land. But again, the importance of emphasis. No one who knows anything, when they read that verse, will say that the emphasis is the wind and the tempest and the dry place and the weary land. That's not the emphasis. The emphasis is, behold, a man shall be in these places. Behold, a man shall be. And he goes on to say, an hiding place from the wind. The emphasis is not the wind. The emphasis is the hiding place. A covert from the tempest. Again, the emphasis is not the tempest. The emphasis is the covert. So it is with rivers of water in a dry place, and the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. It is not merely that this King, this man, Jesus Christ, provides these things. It's not merely that He provides us a hiding place. He provides us a covert. He provides us water in a dry place. He provides us a shadow or a shade. Yes, He does those things, but it's more than that. He is the hiding place. He is the covert. He is the water. He is the shade. Now, in order to be these things, a hiding place from the wind, a covert from the tempest, rivers of water in a dry place, a shadow in a weary land. In order to be that, because it speaks of His relationship to these places, He must be in the wind. He must be in the wind to be a hiding place from the wind. He must be in the tempest in order to be a covert in the tempest. He must be in the dry place in order to be rivers of water. And He must be in the weary land in order to be a shade in the weary land. Not only must He be there, but He must be available in these things. In other words, He must be one that can be turned to and relied upon in such places. And He is. Again, in order to be a hiding place from the wind, a covert from the tempest, rivers of water in a dry place, a shadow of a great rock in a weary land, He must be greater. He must be superior to. He must be more than the wind and the tempest and the dry place and the weary land. He must be more than all of those things. He must be more substantial than the wind. He must be more substantial than the tempest. He must be more substantial than the dry place. He must be more substantial than the weary land. So He must be greater. He must be superior to. He must be more than these things. He must be more substantial than these things. He must be more extensive than the wind, than the tempest, than the dry place, than the weary land. So what we read in our text is also spoken of in Isaiah 4 verse 6. There shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and a place of refuge, and for a covert from the storm and from the rain. That's the same thing as our text, just different words. It's also what is said of God in Isaiah 25 verse 4. For thou hast been a strength to the poor, a strength to the needy in its distress, a refuge from the storm, a shadow from the heat. Now in that verse, Isaiah 25:4, what's the emphasis? Is the emphasis the poor? Is the emphasis the needy? Is the emphasis the storm or the heat? No, that's not the emphasis. The emphasis, the focus is God has strength and a refuge and a shadow. The sufficiency of Christ. The all-sufficiency of Christ is stated and taught all through the Word of God. You don't have to get to the New Testament before you read of the all-sufficiency of Jesus Christ. It's illustrated all through the book. Why? Because we need to know that Jesus Christ is all-sufficient. And this is the emphasis. This is what our attention is being directed to. But the sufficiency of Christ, again, is stated and taught by who He is. His person. Just who He is makes Him all-sufficient. His titles declare Him to be all-sufficient. His miracles are proof that He is all-sufficient. His teachings declare that He is all-sufficient. So He is all-sufficient. This one is sufficient for our safety. This is illustrated in two ways in the text. Isaiah 32. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind. A hiding place. It speaks of safety. And a covert from the tempest. So His sufficiency is illustrated by the hiding place and by the covert. And He is an hiding place. A place away. A place of quiet. It's a literal place. A hiding place. The psalmist declared in Psalm 32:7, Thou art, right now, present tense, my hiding place. My hiding place. And he said in Psalm 143:9, I flee unto thee to hide me. I flee unto thee to hide me. The image of a hiding place used in relation to the wind here in Isaiah 32 means that it is speaking of a powerful wind, a dangerous wind, a destructive wind. Notice also a covert from the tempest. A covert is an overlay. It's a covering. It speaks of protection. It conveys the same idea presented in Psalm 91:4. He shall cover thee. He shall cover thee. And in Isaiah 51 verse 16, I have covered thee in the shadow of mine hand. It's like God holding His hand above us. In the shadow of my hand. He is a hiding place in the wind. He is a covert in the tempest. Again, He is all sufficient for our protection. Don't ever forget that. You can go out there with confidence in God's protection. This one is sufficient for fullness. In our text, it is as rivers, plural, of waters, plural. In. Rivers of water in. Expressing the situation. A dry place. In a dry place. This speaks of blessing. This speaks of benefit. This speaks of life. This speaks of abundance. Christ not only provides rivers of waters, He is the waters. He is the waters. In Him is the blessing. In Him is the benefit. In Him is the abundance. In Him is the life that we need. And it freely flows in the midst of dryness. He is sufficient for fulfillment. He is also sufficient for refreshment. Notice what it says. And a man shall be as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. He's the rock, and He's the shadow. 1 Samuel 2, verse 2, neither is there any rock like our God. That speaks of His strength, His stability, His durability. God outlasts any wind, any tempest, any dry place, any weary land. It speaks of His durability. He is strength. He is the strength we need. He is the stability we need. He is the durability that we need. The presence of the Lord as a rock. I'm not talking here of a little stone. We're talking of a protruding rock. It casts a shadow. And it speaks of the shade that He provides. The refreshment. And again, this is in the midst of weariness. In a weary land. So each of these images, the wind, the tempest, a dry place, a weary land, they all speak of need. Every one of them speaks of need. And Jesus Christ in and of himself, is sufficient, all sufficient, for every need. For every need. It's not merely, again, that God will provide safety. He will. It's not merely that He will provide fullness and refreshment, but a man, Jesus Christ, shall be as a hiding place, as a covert, as rivers of water, as a shadow. Jesus Christ is our safety. He's our fullness. He's our refreshment. So in closing, in the text, again, taking it as a prophecy of Jesus Christ, what we see in the text is the authority of Christ, a king. A king shall reign in righteousness. We see the protecting power of Christ. We see the full supply of Christ. We see the comfort of Christ. In each one of these images, there's comfort. This is a declaration that He is a solid foundation of peace and safety. And He is suitable regardless of the situation, whether it be wind, a tempest, a dry land, or a weary land. He is sufficient. He is suitable and beneficial to us. Whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, whatever season we are in, Jesus Christ is suitable. Jesus Christ is suitable to everything we need. So why? Why would anyone look anywhere else? It's either complete ignorance or they simply don't believe that it's so. Whatever the situation, whether it be the wind, the tempest, the dry land, or the weary land, we will find benefit in Jesus Christ. That's what will be beneficial to us. We don't need to find a better situation. Everything we need is in Him. Everything. So we ought to thank God that He has provided a man, Jesus Christ, for us, for our benefit, regardless of the situation. Brother Ben, if you'll come and